if you actually can reach a certain level of sustainability in the environment and in social institutions, then you actually can have long-term economic growth.
Okay, that makes sense. How do you see that applying to the United States? Because I mean, that general idea seems to be what's behind the green jobs movement that's come up so recently, and I mean, that hasn't necessarily been put into action extensively yet because it's so new. Do you see that as a viable?
Well, I mean, I think that it probably, I can't say, speak as an expert about this, but I think if you went around the United States, you would see examples of this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, simple examples come to mind. There was an island off the Carolinas where a developer decided to leave a large part of the island as essentially a private reserve, a protected area. But in doing it, he built a business model where that made sense. Why did it make sense? Because by creating that in the center of the island, he could charge a premium for all the houses he was developing on the island. Because why would you, oh look, I have a house next to a protected area, that means nobody else is going to build around me. And I'm going to have a certain set of conditions that I value very highly and I'm willing to pay for. Right? And so he actually added incremental value to the product he was going to bring to market, excuse me, that he was going to bring to market by implementing some environmental sustainability measures. There are many, many examples of that. A perfect example of it is here, right here. When you go, like you're in your dorm room, and if you go into the a sink and open up the tap, you can drink this water. And when you go to the restaurants all around New York, that water is served everywhere. If you say, they say, you want tap water? And you say yes. Well, you come from California, right?
Right.
I lived in California. A lot of the tap water is pretty bad to drink.
Depends on where you are.
Where you are. It tastes like chlorine, it tastes like all kinds of treatment. Here, the water, you don't know why? Because we have the only unfiltered water in the United States of any major city. New York does not filter its water. Now, you want to know why?
Why?
Because New York's water comes from a set of reservoirs pretty far away from the city. It's brought to the city by granite aqueducts and then delivered to the city. Those reservoirs offer to the city an extraordinary value. What is the value? The value is twofold. First of all, you can turn on a tap and have really clean, drinkable water, which tastes good. Wins water tasting contests all over the world. Is known as the champagne of water. It's exported around the United States to make bagels and pizza.
Right.
It's used in tea tastings in London. They ship over New York water. So why is that? Because the areas that ultimately hold that water before it's delivered to New York are in really good shape. So if you went back to the 1980s, what was happening is those areas were declining. Okay. So the EPA came in and said, if you don't turn around these trends that are leading to impurities getting into the water, we're going to make you put in a filtration plant. Right. So the filtration plant at that time was $6 billion, with a B.
Oh wow.
It now would cost $9 billion actually to do, because the amount of volume to deliver to 8 million people every day is a tremendous amount of water. So that would be a $6 to $9 billion investment with then $250 million a year in operating costs, $500 million a year now in operating costs for the system, right? So the city was faced with either doing that or doing something to sustainably manage the natural environment, which was filtering the water for free. So what they did is they developed this program. When it's fully fleshed out, will cost about $1.5 billion. But the program is incentivizing developers to move away from the water system and farmers to keep their animals away from the water system. And what that has done is resulted in the water being continue to be delivered unfiltered to everyone's tap. Well, think about that. It cost them $1.5 billion to do that. It would have cost $6 to $9 billion, plus an operating cost every year going forward. Right? So the math and the economics was really simple. But what is it telling you? It's telling you that nature, right, is providing these free services, and we don't value things we get for free. We don't place anything. So someone will take the tap and turn it on, brush their teeth, the phone rings, they walk out of the room and let the tap run. Why? Because they're not paying for it. And it's very hard for people to value things they're not paying for. So that's a good example of showing you how there's a real economic basis to making decisions about environmental sustainability. There are strong economic returns.
Are there ways to work in those economic basis into policy solutions?
Absolutely. We're doing the exact same thing we're doing in the Dominican Republic, which is a developing country, is exactly what we're thinking here.
Mm-hmm.
If we want to take activities upstream, like reforesting, or having the farmers upstream change their practices, and what does that do? It results in cleaning up the water as it comes out, and also helps build the fisheries, because the water's not polluted. Then the people who are benefiting down here, right, have to pass some of those benefits upstream. They can't say, do all these things for the good of mankind.
Right.
People don't usually act that way. You know, they act for the good of their family, they act for the good of maybe their small community, but they don't act for the good of mankind. That's much too much to ask for people who don't have resources to do that. So what you want to do is get this equation right. You want to say if people downstream are benefiting, and I mean literally downstream or figuratively downstream, or benefiting from the actions of others, you have to pass some of those benefits back. Then everybody is benefiting. Economically, this makes sense, and it's much more likely to happen because of that.